Hi, it's Ashleigh from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome back to my channel where I make a lot of cake and cookie decorating tutorials, as well as give a lot of baking business tips. And it's that time of year, so obviously I am already losing my voice. As you all know, I'm not super into reinventing the wheel when it comes to recipes, so I will pin down in the comments below the recipes that I am using from Sally's Baking Addiction. Honestly, I love so many of her recipes, and they work so well for me. The more traditional method of making an all-butter pie crust is definitely to cut in your butter with either a pastry cutter or with butter knives, but I really like to speed up the process by using my food processor. Just make sure that you don't over process that butter. You do want there to be pebble-like consistency in there so you get a really nice flaky crust. I did also add an incredible amount of black food coloring in here. Note to self, you probably don't need that much food coloring, but I really wasn't sure how black this would get, and I wanted it to be jet black. If you don't like the use of food coloring, I honestly think that if you use the black cocoa, it would work just as well, but it obviously would alter the taste of your crust just a little bit. I've seen some people complete the entire pie dough in a food processor, but I just find I don't have enough control that way, and I do want to keep this nice and tender and flaky, so I pour all of my dry ingredients into a bowl, and then I add in that cold water, and then I knead it with my hands. Now, I didn't have to use all the cold water that the recipe calls for, because obviously there was a lot more liquid in there due to the gel food coloring. Although the dough appears a little bit dry at first, I could still feel some moisture in there, which means that I just had to knead it a little bit more. When I first started making pie crusts, I would make this mistake by adding in all the water at once, and then it would be a little bit too sticky and I would have to incorporate more flour later. You could take this concept and make a large pie, but I wanted to make mini pies, so I decided to split my dough into thirds. Make sure the dough is wrapped nice and tight and then place it in the fridge to chill. While that's chilling, I started working on the lemon curd, and I really wanted to make this super tart, so I do tend to add in a few more lemons and a lot more lemon zest than the recipe originally calls for. I also had one random orange laying around, and I knew that it wasn't going to get eaten, so I also decided to throw that into the mix as well. I placed all of the ingredients onto a double boiling system, which basically is just a glass bowl and then putting it over a pot of simmering water. Using glass definitely makes the process take a lot longer, but if you use metal, then I do find that the lemon curd gets this metallic aftertaste. The timing of this recipe really does click like clockwork. By the time you're done preparing the lemon curd and it's on the double boiler, you pretty much are ready to start rolling out your pie dough. The entire point of letting your dough rest is so that you don't get a lot of elasticity. So when you take it out of the fridge, if it has rested long enough, it should be able to just roll out really nicely and nothing will bounce back. I'm being pretty haphazard with the way that I cut this circle and just eyeballing it. I really do want a nice thick outer crust on the edge. Otherwise, I find that it shrinks too much and then the pie crust ends up going into itself and you won't get that nice little pie shape that you're looking for. I also love Halloween for the very fact that I don't have to be too perfect with things, especially because I want this to have that spooky kind of vibe. And I know you guys saw it on video earlier, but I should also mention that I do generously put a lot of butter in the cupcake tin, because if you don't do that, things are going to stick. Also, the butter adds a lot more flavor. And for everything, even though the recipe calls for unsalted butter, I always use salted and then I don't add any more salt. After the crust was all prepped, I placed it into my fridge and then I finished up this lemon curd. And when this is still nice and warm, I put that butter in there. I do let my lemon curd thicken up quite a bit on the double boiling system because I personally like it when lemon curd has a little bit more body to it and doesn't just ooze everywhere when you bite into it. And I found that when I don't really thicken it up, kind of like a hollandaise consistency, then it just ends up going everywhere and it makes it a less pleasant experience. Redirecting our focus back to the pie crust, I did place that in the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and I did weigh it down with some rice. You could do it with some dried beans, whatever you would like. I do find those parchment circles that are pre-cut very useful because they fit perfectly into that cupcake shape. Removed the rice and the parchment, and then I baked it for about another 10 minutes or so after brushing it with some heavy whipping cream. You could also do it with egg yolk as well if you want it extra shiny. And then while that was baking, I prepared the meringue, and I am using the Italian meringue method. 300 grams of granulated sugar, 75 grams of water, 110 grams of those egg whites, and then while those egg whites are whipping, and I brought the temperature up to about 244 degrees Fahrenheit for that sugar and water, I slowly poured it in, and that's how you end up with a beautiful and very luscious meringue. I should also add that you really want to make sure you add your gel food colorant prior to everything whipping together. It's a lot harder to color meringue once it's already whipped up. After letting those mini pie crusts cool for a little bit, take them out and they should just slide out super, super easily because of all that butter. And hopefully your tin is a little bit nonstick as well. Place that lemon curd in there. I like it nice and cold and chilled. And then go ahead and top it with that meringue. I was really generous because there is so much lemon curd in there, so to balance it out, I added as much meringue as possible. Plus, I just find it gives it a nice spooky vibe and it looks so beautiful. And then, of course, you want to torch that meringue. That is the most fun part of this entire recipe. Add a little bit of edible glitter if you really want to give it those Halloween magical vibes. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading when I feel like it, but be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!